I was in a Washington Post article, Twitch in wartime. Streamers grapple with mainstream news, misinformation while covering Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's a good article, and I recommend you all read it. The person who interviewed me was extremely professional from start to finish. It was pretty cool, you know, to be in a Washington Post article. If you guys wanted to read it on your own time. He got salty because you were quoted more than him, and also because you said not to trust streamers too much. It seemed like, I looked at it a little bit. I looked at what he was saying, and it seemed he was not very happy that I was in the article so much. Like, he just called me like a CIA shill, and then was like, streamers are held to the same accountability as like mainstream news. Which is a ridiculous claim on its face. Couldn't he have just been happy for all of us, you know? Could have just like looked at all of us and been like, look, we're all in a Washington Post article. Isn't that cool? Just moved on. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began, Twitch streamers work to unpack the crisis for the viewers in real time. The war coverage on Twitch is a new wrinkle in the international reporting of a war that is being viewed by millions on live streams, where the standards and formats for sharing and discussing information on the conflict vary distinctly from traditional news outlets. Piker is hardly alone. A plethora of Twitch streamers have spent the past week and a half sitting through countless tweets, TikToks, and reports from mainstream outlets in an effort to provide up-to-the-minute coverage of Europe's biggest war since World War II. If you're watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox, etc., and you disagree with the position or have a question, yelling at the TV does nothing, said Dylan Burns, 21. By the way, I love how they say DylanBurnsTV Burns. My official title is DylanBurnsTV Burns. Isn't that great? DylanBurnsTV Burns. Wonderful. 21. A Twitch streamer and former director of the Maryland branch of Mike Gravel's 2020 presidential campaign. Man, that's the thing people remember me for, huh? I don't know. I guess it's been so long since I was on the campaign. Like, I don't care if people remember me for that. But I don't know. I feel like I would rather be remembered for more of my local activism, since that's what I'm more involved in now. But, you know, people remember me for that, and that's fine. Now you can get the Twitter checkmark. From what I heard, you actually need 2 articles. I'm gonna use this to try to get the Twitter checkmark, but I think I need a second article. But in my Twitch community, it's the exact opposite. I respond in real time. That's an important advantage if you want to change people's minds. I will say, one of the best things, and I did want to emphasize this in my conversation with him in the interview, about being a Twitch streamer in comparison to being like on cable news, is being able to be like, oh, you disagree with me? Come on up here, let's talk about it. You can't do that on Fox. You can't do that on MSNBC. You can kind of do it on C-SPAN, but the people who call in, you don't debate and go back and forth with them. They just say their opinion. I love this. I love that ability. And it would be something I would want to keep if I ever had a mainstream cable news outlet. Sometimes their conversations are constructive, with both streamers and viewers learning. Other times they're more antagonistic, with a streamer calling out a viewer who say spreading misinformation. This is me. This 100% is me, okay? He watched my stream. You want to know what stream he watched? He watched a stream where there was somebody in my chat saying Ukraine was a Nazi state, and I called them in, and I debated them, and I brought them in, and was like, let's talk about what you just said, right? And I gotta say, for the guy on the other end of it, I thought it was an embarrassing conversation for him, right? And I don't mean that to be mean, I just thought it felt like he knew nothing about the conflict. But that was the stream he watched, it seemed. I feel like a lot of the media is relying on content from social media relative to previous major conflicts, said Mike from PA buyer. Docs. 37. Wait, he's 37? I had no clue he was so old. A Twitch streamer and former Pennsylvania House of Representatives candidate. Ooh. Ooh. You know when they say that. Never mind, I'll keep moving. So I might be able to get in front of a network television on some of these sources because I'm more connected to what's viral and not. As an example, he pointed to a video of a Russian transport that ran out of fuel on the side of a highway, which he said appeared on some mainstream networks a day or two after he discovered it online last week, positioned by these networks as evidence that Russia is bogged down and struggling. Regardless of narratives extrapolated, it makes sense that such footage would take longer to appear on mainstream network. CNN, for example, has a series of best practices for geolocating and verifying social media footage, allowing the network to ensure it's not fake or old. These involve identifying landmarks, matching weather to forecasts, and drawing on the NSA's active fire data. That's the thing, though. When I have these social media footage, this is my thing. I have like a list of trusted accounts. Like Woofers is an account I trust, right, on Twitter. If they tweet it out, I trust it. The person has consistently given me accurate content. I trust those people. And he follows me on Twitter, making him even more reliable, right? Other than that, if it's not in one of those accounts that I have that I trust, then I'm just going to wait usually for mainstream media to like confirm it. Because I just don't have the same resources like CNN and other people or the know-how to geolocate something and confirm it, right? Anytime I present social media video, I only do so with extreme caveats about the legitimacy of it, as non-verified information, Buyer said. Sometimes it takes an audience to point out that something is fake, you know? But Burns cautioned that one person runs the show, the streamer. Your chat might correct you later, or you may... Oh, shit, they put me... Oh, they put me as the rebuttal to Mike from PA. I just noticed that. They had Mike from PA saying that, and then they put me as the rebuttal. I didn't know they were going to do that. To be clear, they didn't give me a bunch of Mike from PA statements and I responded. They just gave me 7 questions, and I answered the 7 questions. And then they said, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. So I guess they asked us all basically the same question, and we just had a slightly different perspective on dealing with misinformation. Where I was basically saying that, like, there needs to be more accountability. Washington Post baiting drama. I don't think it's like that. I think it seems like that because we're just so Twitch drama focused. But it seems like the person who wrote it is just trying to give like multiple perspectives. But Burns cautioned that one person runs the show, the streamer. Your chat might correct you later, or you may correct yourself later. Oh man, it really looks like I'm responding to him because I even called out the chat thing, which he brings up. Like it takes a chat to. Oh no, it really looks like I read his statement and said why it's wrong. It really looks like that, doesn't it? Oof. It's literally word for word looks like that. Your chat might correct you later, or you may correct yourself later. But that is after the fact, possibly after the damage has been done, Burns said. And who is that streamer going to have to answer for spreading misinformation? Last week, Twitch rolled out a new misinformation policy. Oh, beautiful. That's a great caveat into Twitch's new based misinformation policy. We haven't talked about this tonight. It's going to be one of the topics on Hippy Dippy tonight, is the misinformation policy Twitch has. I am 100% on board with Twitch's misinformation bans and Twitch's misinformation policy. We should wipe out these channels, okay? Wipe them out. Look, if you mess up a few times or you do it by accident or something like that, I can understand. But if you're purposely spreading misinformation, right? Like about vaccines or like pedophile QAnon bullshit, goodbye. I have zero sympathy. Absolutely zero sympathy, okay? I think the article made you a champion of Twitch's misinformation policy with that follow-up. That's what I've got. I've actually got messages from people saying like, hey Dylan, you're like one of the first people I've seen come out and like championing it. Good job. I've had like 2 or 3 people DM me on Twitter after reading the article about it. Which I guess is cool. I guess I'm the face of the anti-misinformation movement now. Congratulations, everybody. Third pillar, DylanBurnsTV rising. AW has 4 pillars. Who are the 4 pillars of Twitch? There are 3 pillars of Twitch politics, okay? As in the Twitch politics community, not just Twitch politics broadly. It's Vosh, Destiny, and Hippy Dippy, okay? Slowly, it's becoming Dylan Burns, but Hippy Dippy at the moment. Because Hippy Dippy makes stars. Hippy Dippy made so many, like, when you think of the amount of people who started on the Hippy Dippy recruitment show, teamed out, Riley Grace Roshong, Demon Mama didn't start on the Hippy Dippy recruitment show, but she grew substantially, I think, from the roundtable. We had Mythic Politics, who's an alumni. So many people, honestly, who actually started there. It's crazy. Where were we? This stands in contrast to YouTube, which targets misinformation less discriminately, and has, as a result, suspended legitimate news sources that are reporting on misinformation rather than spreading it. While streamers often work with volunteer chat moderators, and bigger ones like Piker are represented by talent agencies, they're not networks or newsrooms. Sometimes this redounds to their benefit. Streamers have readily admitted that they're not infallible or objective. Piker, for example, has taken no small amount of flack for repeatedly insisting Russia would not invade Ukraine during his February broadcast. Then it happened. He went on to apologize and explain his reasoning. This guy's really... this reporter is really good. I'm sorry, this guy's really balanced. He's showing every perspective. He's not like super dunking on people or anything. He's making sure that if he brings up the fact that Piker like was wrong about the invasion of Ukraine, he's like making sure that Piker like has a chance to respond. This is good journalism. Xpone3, thank you for the Prime Gaming. Didn't think a regional power would act so irrationally, Piker said on Twitter. I've admitted my mistakes. I got things wrong. I hope Ukrainians are safe. Misconceptions and deceptions. Streamers like Bayer and Piker, both of who've previously worked for left-leaning online news shows, the Majority Report and Young Turks respectively. Dude, isn't that crazy? Both Piker and Mike Bayer, I guess they're calling him. Like, they're both, like, they have that media background. And that's part of the reason I assume they're in there, you know? I don't got that media background, you know? I built this up myself. We're still in the Washington Post article. I'm sorry, I'm a little blown. I'm a little bashful, you know? It's a cool moment. Pride themselves on providing context rooted in anti-imperialist policies. While both Bayer and Piker oppose Russia's invasion, they have emphasized the U.S. role in paving a path towards a current conflict, as well as a U.S. history of invasions. I mean, like, if you talk about the U.S. role in this conflict, unironically, it's like 10%, unironically. If you look at this specific conflict, at every single point, it was the Russians who escalated. It was the Russians who put the troops on the border. It was the Russians who put the troops in a position to invade. It was the Russians that launched the false flags. It was the Russians who launched the invasions. It's the Russians who vetoed condemning the invasion. Like, 90% of this specific conflict was caused by the Russians. I mean, like, I think saying anything else is just cope. There's a certain role that the United States played, right? But I feel like people are trying to make it sound more substantial than it actually is. Bayer views it as his responsibility to convey skepticism of overarching narratives to his audience. Whenever I've watched Western, mostly American media, it's very focused on perception of Russian failure. Because geopolitically, we want to see the Russian military fail. I feel like I've been editorially more responsible in a lot of ways than what's going on cable television. I mean, like, this part, I agree with. That I feel that, like, even though it's obvious that the Russian military have had a ton of failures in this conflict, they've had a lot of tactical losses, I would say. And they haven't been able to achieve their strategic objectives. They're still making slow progress on strategic objectives. And I think a lot of people want to, like, play this idea that the Ukraine's actually about to win when the odds are still solidly stacked against Ukraine. But the idea that he's been more editorially responsible in a lot of ways than what's going on in cable television, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I haven't watched his coverage. I would have to ask, like, what did he say before the invasion of Ukraine? Was he like, oh, it's not happening, lamau? Or was he like, hey, we need to wait and see? Because I actually didn't even talk about it until a few days before it happened. Because, like, when people asked me, I would say, like, look, I think it's like 60-40. I think, like, it's really hard to tell. Like, 60% chance it doesn't happen, 40% chance it does happen, which is actually really concerningly high numbers. Like, the Russians keep preparing. They keep getting, like, this is the furthest they've ever prepared for an invasion. And I'm not going to just disregard U.S. intelligence so quickly as a lot of other of my contemporaries, because it's U.S. intelligence. Even though, of course, you should remember that it is U.S. intelligence when analyzing it. I don't know what his coverage of it was at that point, because I feel that's where like the real editorial integrity was laid down, was when people had to challenge their misconceptions about the intelligence community, what information we had, stuff like that. Any thoughts on the new bioweapons and Ukraine conspiracy? I think it's bullshit. I think it's WMDs for tankies, and I think anybody who buys it is a schmuck. Okay, if you buy this stuff, you're a schmuck. You are a complete and total schmuck. Okay? Unironically. If you think that Ukraine was making bioweapons with the American government to target Russian DNA, you're a schmuck. I'm sorry. Or the idea that the Ukrainians were about to do a bio attack, then you're an even bigger schmuck. Because why the fuck would they do a bio attack right now to get all that bad it makes zero sense. Anyway. In a time of mass uncertainty and contradictory narratives, streamers see opportunities for teachable moments if misinformation is inevitable. At the very least, viewers can be taught in real time to look for telltale signs. This approach can lead streamers into tricky territory. Last week, for instance, Burns plucked back to us boys. Burns plucked a viewer out of his text chat for an on-air voice discussion. It quickly became clear that his viewer was convinced of the Putin-endorsed notion that Ukraine had been covertly commandeered by neo-Nazis. Does he link I wish he linked the video, because I feel that I think the best way for people to know how poorly this person performed and how I think useful it was is if you watch the video, because the dude didn't do well. The dude came in, he had nothing to back up his claims. He just kind of hummed along, repeated some talking points. When I gave any pushback, he immediately collapsed and like pivoted away, right? So I feel like the only thing I would have probably like want changed maybe is if he linked that discussion so people could go check it out for themselves and make up their own mind, because it is on YouTube. It could easily be linked. I'll talk to people who disagree with me, but I don't like it when somebody like bullshits me, right? Like, we know it's an invasion, right? They're moving troops into a separate sovereign country with its own government with the intentions of changing that government. It's a regime change war. Like, they're invading Ukraine.
Yeah, okay. I can see your point. Okay, I would definitely be with you and say this is an invasion if they had control of their nation. But while Ukraine...
Wait, then can I ask this? Did the Nazis invade Russia?
I think so, right? That's what history says.
Yeah, Hitler. Yeah, Hitler's Nazis do. The bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
They invaded Russia, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't win. And they didn't control all of Russia. But it was still an invasion, right?
Sure, yeah. When they took some parts from Russia, right?
Yeah, and if you look at the invasion, the Russians control Crimea and parts of the south that they've invaded out of Crimea into. We can look at a map, like right now. Like, this is one of the most updated maps. Like, they control territory here. They control territory up here. They just took, I think, this location right here about an hour ago. Like, they're controlling territory.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is an invasion.
Yeah, you can say that if that makes sense for you.
Well, no, like, I'm not asking what it makes sense for me. I'm asking, you just said an invasion is when you invade a country and take territory, right? I'm looking,
yeah,
and they are invading the country, and this looks like they've taken territory.
Yeah.
So it's an invasion. So, okay, this was the entirety of the conversation. You think this is like, well, maybe this is a low point. This was the entirety of the conversation from start to finish. And so I just want to emphasize that, like, the idea that this guy came on my stream and he was able to spread misinformation. I feel like if you watch this video and you come away with the conclusion that this guy's right, or like this is a decent argument, or that this is convincing in any manner, then you wanted to believe that the Russians are in the right here from the get-go, and there was nothing I can do to convince you otherwise. Because he gives me the conditions for what's an invasion. I show him how this meets all those conditions after he denies the obvious reality. And then he just shuts down. Anyway, you get the idea. Still, Burns believes that in a time when misinformation lurks around every corner, tackling it head-on makes more sense than trying to cover it up. I think one of the best ways to smash these misconceptions is to challenge someone who actually believes them. True. You are showing your audience that you are confident in your ideas and that the facts are on your side. I know this is a meme, but it's also true, right? People will, like, if somebody says something with conviction, if somebody says something like strongly and they're able to like make a decent argument, it is more convincing. If you're able to have your ideas challenged and under fire, it does make your arguments look better. 100%. It also means that next time anyone who saw that live debunking hears one of these fallacious points, they will have the tools to disconstruct it themselves and hopefully change minds. Anyway, you get the idea, right? Wait, I want to read my quote at the end. I really like my quote at the end here. This is extremely frustrating because I believe war coverage should include detailed footage of the war in question, said Burns. who recently received his first ever warning for Twitch for depicting violence on stream. People should be able to see the full extent of the horror Putin's government has unleashed on Ukraine. Dude, if I was to read to you the statements I send this author, dude, you should read it. It's insane. Because every statement I made sure to be like, so misinformation about Putin's brutal and disgusting fucking horrific invasion and rape of Ukraine is a real issue on Twitch. Like every single statement, I made sure to lace it with as much like, fuck the Russian army, fuck Putin, fuck, like it was like super, like I made sure to lace as much as possible, okay? Because I didn't know who else they were going to be asking in this article for quotes, and I wanted to make sure that people knew my stance on the Russian invasion, okay? I wanted to make sure people knew. Even as somebody who relies on Twitch as a means of covering major world events, Byrne recognized the platform's problems. He recommends that those looking for answers keep all... By the way, can I say I also said as my answer that I would like to do this, but I also understand that Twitch has to answer to advertisers, and this is a gaming platform, not necessarily a news platform. And so they not being able to show real world violence is understandable considering the circumstances. Even as somebody who relies on Twitch as a means of covering major world events, Byrne recognizes the platform's problems. He recommends those looking for answers keep all available options in mind. People should not just look to streamers or YouTubers for news, he said. That is an absolutely god-awful idea. Do not trust me or any of my contemporaries to construct your worldview for you. There are a million different resources you could utilize in order to research hot-button political issues. There are news agencies, research institute, think tanks, and a whole host of other places for you to get information. Diversify your media consumption generally, really. This is so, like, I was so proud that this got in there. Because this is the statement I wanted to get into the article as much as possible. Because this was the sentiment I wanted to get across as much as possible. Like, do not just go to Twitch, listen to a bunch of, like, streamers and say, well, I got my Ukraine opinion. I listened to it on stream. Look, I understand that I go pretty deep in detail with, like, the conflict. Do not just trust my word, okay? For the love of fucking God, I will even give you other resources, like the Institute for the Study of War. I'll post a lot of the updates on my community tab. For those of you who don't know, I'm starting to post the Institute for the Study of War updates on the conflict in the community tab on my YouTube channel. I link it in my chat when I get the opportunity, right? Go to other open intel sources, right? You can literally go directly to the sources I use. You want to use LiveMap, !LiveMap in chat, and it will direct you to the source. The thing that I like about LiveMap and why I've used this to cover study conflicts for like almost 5 years now, starting with the war in Syria. Let's see if I can refresh this quick. Is that you can click like something that occurs and then you can click the source and immediately links you to the source. So if you are skeptical of a claim, you can immediately click the source, go to it and study it yourself. For the love of God, do not just take my word for it, okay? Do not. For the love of God, do not just take my word for it. See right here? Boom. You can go up here and click the source right there. Before we move on from the article and we talk about how Russia's getting desperate, and I mean desperate, okay? I wanted to look at Mike's coverage of this article because I'm a little petty, okay? And I wanted to see what he had to say, okay? Because I heard, you know, his and I did listen to a bit in piece, and then when I listened to like him talk about it for a minute, I was like, I need to watch this on stream, okay? I just want to watch Mike's coverage for just a second, okay? I gotta, okay?
You look at that. Streamers grapple with mainstream news misinformation while covering Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a spoiler. He agrees with Hasan on everything. Let's move on. Okay, now here we go. Here's the section where, out of nowhere, he's not so happy. Now,
if you're watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and you disagree with the position or have a question, yelling at the TV does nothing. But in my Twitch community, it's the exact opposite. I will respond in real time. I will provide Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's personal talking points in real time. Okay, moving on.
He's so angry. Why is he so angry? I didn't do anything to Mike, really, at the end of the day. You want to know where that came from? Okay? So some people is like, he's jealous because I'm getting more, like, time in the article. I don't really care. I can tell you exactly where this came from.
And I think one of the biggest proponents of the blob is someone here on Twitch who...
He also went after my age for no reason, right? Went after me for not being a college graduate, which also was kind of weird.
doesn't have any foreign policy actual like knowledge or anything. He's a 20-year-old kid, but
again, you're just calling me a kid, okay? I think he's just molding because he's old and he's losing his hair. But you know, you get the idea. Not to mention, a lot of this was just posturing and virtue signaling, because my position on Afghanistan at the end of the day was very similar to his anyway, because I wanted to withdraw. The only difference is I also acknowledged that women's rights are important everywhere, not in just the United States. And that's why he says I'm a CIA talking point shell. That you get the idea. And that's why he also just basically skipped it. Instead of engaging with what I said.
Learning and scrutinizing.
Let me be clear, I don't even hate Mike, right? I don't. I just the amount he's engaged with me in bad faith is aggravating. It's just aggravating him. He just aggravates me. I don't hate him.
All right, hold on. Let's see if we can find where I am. Fucking goddamn it.
He reads my part and he's like, okay, where I'm at, I need to find me. Let me name search myself quick. Find myself in the article. Sick of hearing from this libtard Burns.
Ah, here we go. Funny.
I mean, I read his quotes, and even if I disagreed with them, I tried to engage with them in good faith. Jeez, man. Okay, here it is. So here's the section where they propose my thing as if it's a rebuttal to his thing, even though I had no clue they interviewed Mike for this.
Anytime I present social media video, I do so only with extreme caveats about the legitimacy of it, as non-verified information, buyer said. Sometimes it takes an audience to point out something is fake, you know? But Burns cautioned that one person runs the show, the streamer. Your chat might correct you later, or you may correct yourself later, but that is after the fact, possibly after the damage has been done. And who is that streamer going to have to answer to for spreading misinformation? Absolutely no one. In the same way that CNN answers to absolutely no one. CNN answers to absolutely no one. Same thing with the New York Times. There is no rule. As long as they are not actively and maliciously defaming someone with malice, with
This is literally not true. People will get fired for spreading misinformation. People will get fired if they just lie. Multiple people have been fired from CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Do we know anybody on Twitch up until this new misinformation policy who has gotten fired for spreading misinformation? Who's gotten fired for any of this stuff? There are company policies when it comes to making sure to verify sources, stuff like that, right? There's not the same policies when it comes to Mike from PA or mine or anyone's Twitch stream, right? This isn't even like a criticism of Mike from PA specifically. This is a criticism of like our system. This is what makes mainstream news is one of their strongest attributes in comparison to us, is that they just have more filters. Number one, filters for information. It goes through more hands before it reaches your desk, therefore more eyes can touch it, so the odds of them spreading misinformation are much like less. And two, like there are actual people to answer to. Like you usually actually have a boss, and if you cause a scandal, they will actually fire you. And if you just go up and straight lie about a source, stuff like that, you can just straight up get fired. There are actual company policies that relate with that. Sometimes, depending on like how bad it is, there will just be a correction instead, and nobody will actually like lose their job or something. But there are actual penalties if you just go up there and straight up lie and spread misinformation. Not all the time, but certainly more than on Twitch. As someone who works in news, I can say that even a minor thing can get you in big trouble. That's the thing, right? A lot of people, because the things that we hear about outside of like CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, the stuff that we hear about is we hear about the instances where the big news sites get it wrong, right? And when they get it wrong, we'll also especially hear about it if nobody pays the price, you know? But we're not going to hear it as much as if somebody gets it wrong and they actually pay the price, because it's not as scandalous. It's not as headline grabby. I mean, who's going to really like want to cover the statement where, hey, somebody on CNN like got something wrong and they immediately got fired? That's not really like a good headline. It's not a good story. But yes, there are like practices in place at these news companies to hold people account if they lie about sources, spread disinformation. They're not perfect, that's for sure, but they do exist. Certainly at a higher level than they do on Twitch. This is one of the best advantages that these big mainstream news companies have in comparison to us. Apparently, Hasan knows who you are and thinks you're a lib. Yeah, I know he knows who I am. I assume he probably wouldn't align too much with my politics. You said go to 4:45. Oh, so he did read about me on stream. Oh.
In direct conversation with their audiences. If you're watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox, you can disagree with the position or have a question. Yelling at the TV does nothing. Dylan Burns TV, 21 to 30.
See, that doesn't sound good. Dylan Burns TV. What the? Why? Why Dylan Burns TV burns? Okay, I'm sorry. That like middle part isn't necessary. Oh my goodness.
Streamer and former director of the Maryland branch of Mike Gravel's 2020 presidential campaign. But in my Twitch community, it's the exact opposite. Wait, that dude worked with Mike Gravel? Isn't he like a ruthless neoliberal? Am I wrong?
Oh, jeez. A ruthless neoliberal. Ruthless. At least he called me ruthless, which I consider a compliment. Ruthless. I'm a ruthless businessman. Ruthless. Ruthless Burns. Oh my goodness.
How the fuck did he go from working with Mike Gravel to like...
To what?
Being like the type of dude who says stuff like one of Gravel's biggest fucking takes is that he's a designated...
He doesn't know any of my positions, so he couldn't say a position. Doesn't like you just say you don't actually know what I believe, right? You can just say that, right? You can be like, oh, I didn't know. Like, has he ever like heard me talk about the war in Yemen, or did he hear my positions on Afghanistan? Like, did he? Whatever. I guess it's again, it's probably the Taiwan thing. It's because I'm supportive of Taiwan. The reason why I supported Mike Gravel was because I agreed with him on every foreign policy conflict. Is that I believed that generally America's foreign policy is extremely hawkish, and so having somebody like Mike Gravel on the stage, even if I didn't agree with him on every foreign policy topic, was a benefit.
That's crazy.
I saw one person in chat said Pepe laugh Taiwan defender. Oh my god, Taiwan defender. Like it's a negative thing.
What the fuck? 21-year-old who wants to make money. I mean,
Who wants to make money.
I
mean, all of us want to make money. Hasan just like got a car and like a beautiful house. Good for him. We all want to make money. I didn't change my positions because I want to make money, okay? The popular position on Twitch isn't, hey, let me tell you why I think Taiwan actually deserves its sovereignty and why the Taiwan's Relations Act is actually a staple of U.S. foreign policy that should be upheld, considering that it's prevented conflict across the Taiwan Strait. That's not the popular position. Who cares about that? Who cares about the little nuanced positions of like Taiwanese politics, right? Nobody cares about that. The only thing, foreign policy topic I think I ever discussed that actually made me money, quote unquote, would be this recent Ukraine stuff. And that's just because everybody's talking about it. So people tuned into my channel because they know that I'm very interested in foreign policy and wanted to hear my take on it. If I wanted to just make money, I can like easily have just, I could switch my politics around to stuff that's more like Twitch acceptable, right? But I have more nuance. It's not as simple as like, I'm cheering on every war, right? It's that, hey, I'm against the war in Yemen. I'm against the Saudi government. I'm against the government in Myanmar. But I do support Taiwan. I support the SDF. I against the war in Iraq. I want to rejoin the JCPOA, the Iran deal, right? There's like some nuance in my like foreign policy agenda. So like, it's hard for people to like just think like, hey, maybe Dylan has his own opinion. Some things we agree about, some things we don't. He's just a neolib. It's easier. You just put somebody in a box, you know. Whatever. Is there anything else he's going to talk about?
As an example, he pointed to a video of a Russian relies on an avalanche of information. Tries to provide as many disclaimers as possible. But Burns cautioned that one person runs the show, the streamer. Your chat might correct you later, or you might correct yourself later, but that is after the fact, possibly after the damage has been done. And who is that streamer going to have to answer for spreading misinformation? I wonder where this take is going. Last week, Twitch rolled out a new...
What does that mean? Where does he think my take is going? My take isn't going anywhere. If there's not accountability for spreading misinformation, then there's a problem. He thinks you're subtweeting him? I wasn't subtweeting him. I was just talking about misinformation generally. No, I doubt he thinks I'm subtweet. Maybe, I have no clue.
Like Piker are represented by talent agencies They're not networks or newsrooms. Sometimes this redounds to their belief. Streamers have readily
Look,
admitted that they're
okay,
not.
look, here's the order. It's the ghost of Kiev, okay? And I'm the shill of Kiev, okay? There's the ghost of Kiev, I'm the shill of Kiev, okay? That's what we're doing now, boys. Hey, Michael, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs to the shill of Kiev. I appreciate that so much, man. Thank you.
Aren't infallible or objective. Piker, for example, has taken no small amount of flack for repeatedly insisting Russia would not invade Ukraine during his February broadcast. Then it happened. He went on to apologize and explain his reasons.
To be clear, we didn't respond to it. They didn't give me his statement for me to respond to it, or Michael's. They gave me 7 questions and I just answered them honestly. And then he put them in order to show different perspectives. I didn't respond as saying, hey, Hasan was wrong about Ukraine. I mean, he was wrong, right? But I didn't feel a need to like criticize Hasan. It was just like he asked me about misinformation. So I answered that misinformation is an issue. I mean, like what answer was I supposed to give? Okay, let's go to the end. I want to see what he says about the ending.
Social media posts of the Russian members in Ukraine's total armed forces, which number in the hundreds of thousands. Even after nearly an hour back and forth, the viewer remained unmoved. In that time, though, he was able to espouse numerous conspiracy theories to Burns' audience of thousands of concurrent viewers. Get fucked, debate lords. Still,
if you watch the conversation, the dude is incompetent. Whatever. Again, he's saying get fucked debate lords, but he's debated like Christian Walker on his stream. And like, I'm gonna be honest, I thought he did like decent, and I was actually like probably one of the few people who said I thought he did okay, and I made a whole video about it, okay? And I know a lot of my people didn't agree with me on that. I mean, like, if I performed poorly there, then he performed even worse, because he could watch the conversation, he could look at it, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Burns believes that in a time when misinformation lurks around every corner, tackling it head on makes more sense than trying to cover it up. I think one of the best ways to smash these misconceptions is to challenge someone who actually believes them. You're showing your audience that you are confident in your ideas.
Dude, this is so fucking exhausting, man. And I do mean it. This is exhausting because, like, the only person I semi-flamed was Michael. Like, dude, I don't want to, like, just unironically. Because you know what this means now, right? For like the next few weeks, like any person who like watched this stream is gonna be like, oh, Dylan's the CIA shill who like dragged Mike Revell's body out and like.
And the facts are on your side. Oh man. It also means that next time anyone who saw these live debunking hears one of these fallacious points, they will have the tools to deconstruct it themselves and hopefully change minds. Twitch that enforces policies not only on streamers, but against chatters who regularly spread misinformation far less visibly than streamers, blah, blah, blah. Twitch is shit. I don't care. Global Disinformation Index. Okay. But misinformation thrives on repetition. Speaking to The Atlantic, Mike Caulfield, a researcher at the University of Washington Center of Informed Public, pointed to the way conspiratorial narratives surrounding...
Dude, it's so weird because, like, I remember being... I think it was in Ocean City, Maryland. I must have been, oh my God, how long ago did Hasan debate Charlie Kirk? It must have been like in 2017. Yeah, it was in 2017. I was, I guess, like, how old was I? Oh my God, I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old when this happened. So I was 16 when this happened, and this was the type of stuff, unironically, Hasan's debate with Charlie here and other stuff like this got me into the idea of these things in the first place. Like, Hasan is like, it wasn't just him, right? It was a bunch of other people too, right? Who like made me interested in like, you know, like finding like these types of conversations interesting and like debates interesting and like stuff like that. And so it's like weird for me because it's like, Hasan, you cannot complain, okay? You cannot complain. I'm the monster you created. You created me. I'm the monster. You created me, Hasan. I was 16 watching you debate Charlie. 16, little young Dylan Burns with them skipping his step. With a big bushy-tailed Dylan walking down the street. With wide eyes. Brighten the world. Little lefty Dylan Burns walking forward. Being like, I love my favorite socialist, Hasan Piker. I can't wait to watch him debate Charlie Kirk. Now here I am, 21, a legal adult in all aspects, able to finally drink. And here I stand now, called a neolib, a ruthless neolib, called ruthless, by the same man I watched when I was 16 and looked up to, growing up, trying to make my way, get involved in politics after personal disaster. This is just MJF and CM Punk. That's what this is. This is the MJF CM Punk rivalry. Most of you are not going to even understand that reference, okay? But that's what this is, okay? Ruthless. You created me, Hasan. You did. You made me ruthless, Hasan. You created me. I'm the monster you created. Let's keep going.
January 6th insurrection, some of which surfaced in fringe circles almost immediately, only really took hold after media scrutiny of the event died down. Twitch does not allow videos of graphic real-world violence for the purpose of news coverage. Streamers believe that as more and more viewers come to Twitch to follow current events, that will need to change. This is extremely frustrating because I believe war coverage should be include detailed footage of the war in question, said Burns, who recently received his first ever warning from Twitch for depicting violence on stream. People should be able to see the full extent of horror Putin's government has unleashed on Ukraine. Yeah, we should literally show dead fucking Ukrainian flesh. No. Obviously, I think that Twitch should be more understanding of like accidental slips and mishaps.
The thing is, they're calling me a psycho. To be clear, can I read my full answer that I gave the reporter? Okay, this is a little bit of a Number 6, Twitch doesn't allow clips of real-world violence, which has forced you to describe them instead of showing them on stream. Do you think Twitch should make exceptions for the news? Why or why not? And my number 6 was, I have never gotten a single suspension, ban, punishment, or penalty from Twitch for breaking the rules. That was until a few days ago when I got my first warning for showing images that displayed much of that real-world violence you were talking about. I've covered conflicts around the world in Yemen, Syria, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and more. Trying to cover these conflicts without violating Twitch TOS is extremely difficult. The TOS was not made with the idea of war coverage in mind. It was made with the idea of video games in mind, and then slowly evolved to include just chatting streamers and other categories. So I have been trying my best to filter clips off stream that include any types of violence to make sure it does not include content that Twitch frowns upon, like dead bodies, gore, blood, etc. This leads to me showing clips of far-off artillery bombardments and the aftermath of battles most of the time. It can't show it on stream. If I can't show it on stream, then I will talk about what occurred while still staying within the bounds of TOS. This is extremely frustrating because I believe war coverage should include detailed footage of the war in question. People should be able to see the full extent of the horror Putin's government has unleashed on Ukraine. Then listen to this. I understand, though, that this platform was not made with this situation in mind, and that Twitch also has advertisers that would frown upon how I would choose to make Twitch TOS around things like war coverage, right? I don't plan to stop my war coverage, though, and will do my best to follow the rules. If I get banned or removed from Twitch, then there are other platforms that allow me more freedom in my coverage anyway. But I would hate to leave Twitch because I consider it my streaming home. So in my answer, I literally acknowledge, like, look, this is impractical, okay? It's kind of impractical considering, like, you know, the advertisers and everything. I wish this is how it was, but I also understand the circumstances that created the situation that make it so that's not the case. That wasn't included in my answer. So then his chat is like, oh my god, Dylan just like wants to show gore on the streaming platform.
Anyway, people should just not look to YouTubers and streamers for news, he said. That is absolutely a god-awful idea. Do not trust me, any of my contemporaries, or construct your worldview for you. There are a million different resources you could utilize in order to research hot-button political issues. There are news agencies, research institutes, think tanks, and a whole host of other places where the neoliberal slant can absolutely fucking spear dick the back of your mind for this kind of information. Diversify your media consumption generally, really. I mean, I agree. You should diversify your media consumption, but always understand the personal biases that said think tanks and research institutes have, especially.
Okay, I can't. I don't want to anymore. This is just this is just depressing. Maybe we can finish at least Mike's.
Iron Pipes failure because virus silly.
I want to hear Mike's reaction to. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
For Tails problem, it's uncertainty and contradictory narratives into a tricky. It really became clear that this viewer was dude. Burns repeatedly stated that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is Jewish and lost family members in World War II. That Ukraine's far-right Soboda party did not produce could only procure 2% of the vote in a recent election. The Ukraine's far-right Azov regiment accounts for under 1,000 members of Ukraine's total armed forces, which number in the hundreds of thousands. So all of this doesn't actually contend with the reality of far-right parties. And by the way,
he hasn't listened to he just put a few of the notes in here, right? Like the article doesn't include a lot more of my like information when it comes to like the Russian fascists that are fighting favor the Russian invade.
Hey chat, let's go to Wikipedia. How well has this party's only
By the way,
ever gotten to total armed forces? Hey chat,
look what he does quick here. This is I'm gonna be honest, this is really scummy what he does here.
let's go to Wikipedia.
Look how quickly he scrolls. Look,
How
he scrolls so quickly past it. Because look at that, 1 seat out of 450, 890 out of 43,122. Just scrolls past that, because all I claimed was that in a recent election they've lost, right? That they've lost big. And so right now, invading Ukraine to denazify the country doesn't make sense when the far right parties of Ukraine are less influential than ever. It doesn't make sense. Because if the thing was denazify the country, wouldn't they have invaded when these far right parties were more popular? That was the substance of my point.
well has this party's only ever gotten 2%?
I never claimed that. I never claimed that. You're just building a straw man.
Really? Really? Only ever got 2%? Are you sure? Are you sure?
I never said that. But why would it matter if they got... Imagine if China invaded America and said, we did it to Ku Klux Klanify America. And then you pointed to, like, the Ku Klux Klan's membership numbers in 1920. Like, that information's worthless now. If they invaded in 1920, then 1920 membership rolls of the Ku Klux Klan might make sense. But using them in the year 2022 wouldn't make sense. You would use modern membership rolls.
A 7 to 17 December 2013 opinion poll indicated that in a presidential election between Viktor Yanukovych and Svoboda leader Tanyabuk would win 28.8% of the popular vote to Yanukovych's 27.1%.
2013. What year is it today? Also, still note that they still lost. So even at the height of the far right's power, they still couldn't win. Look at that. Look what he does. He keeps scrolling down. He gets to the area, 2014, 2019 elections, losing support. Look what he does. Oh, well, never mind. Let's scroll back up. It doesn't matter anymore. Oh, never mind. I think we've read all we need to read. We don't need to read any more of this art. I think we're done with this Wikipedia article. Oh my god, man.
I don't know. I guess it's maybe more than 2%.
No, it isn't, because that wasn't my quote, you moron. Why are you so unbelievably bad faith? So is it like, is Mike's personal mission to misquote data? Like every single opportunity against, like, first it was Afghanistan and the CIA, now it's Ukraine and polling data? Like, whatever.
Even after nearly an hour of back and forth, the viewer remained unmoved. Tackling it head on, died.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's skip all this. It's just gonna be like, oh, debate bro sucks. Who cares?
Demonetization.
Let's go to the end.
Immediately, graphic it should include and diversify.
Okay, here we go.
To streamers or YouTubers from Twitch as a means of covering world events. Burns recognizes the platform's problems. He recommends that those looking for answers keep all available options in mind. People should not just look to streamers or YouTubers for news, he said. This is an absolutely god-awful idea. Do not trust me or any of my contemporaries who construct your world war for you. There are a million different resources you could utilize in order to research hot-button political issues.
This is true, right?
These are not news agencies, research institutes, think tanks, and a whole host of other places you can get information. Diversify your media consumption generally. Of course, you agree with that.
Wonderful.
Think tanks, though?
Oh, come on.
Think tanks though?
You were so close.
Paid shills? Okay.
There are good and bad think tanks. Just look at where the think tank gets its funding. That's what you need to do before you spread it out there. Like, you can go. It's public information a lot of times, this funding, man. There are think tanks that are useful and think tanks that are bad. The Gravel Institute, by the way, almost became a think tank, by the way. And I'm sure he would have agreed with that think tank if it did become a think tank instead of like a lefty PragerU.
Well, chat, that was Twitch in wartime.
Because I was like semi-involved, not really. And like the early they communicated me a tiny bit, like a very, very smidgen of information about like the Gravel Institute, because I wasn't super interested really in it. But originally it was supposed to be a think tank. And I'm sure he would have agreed with said think tank.
Twitch in wartime. Look at that, chat. Go visit this so it gets some social media juice.
This is really disappointing. I think that this is just, honestly, the only thing I would say is I wish, now upon further reflection, I do wish the section about war, the author maybe included like a little, like, just part of my caveat where I said, like, I understand due to advertisers this and that, right? But like, I think the article is still really good faith. I just think both Hasan and Mike just, I don't know. I think they just had both maybe like a bone to pick with me. I don't know.